the food. Burn the food.
Burn it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask everyone to please head to your seats. Please settle down. We really want to begin in less than a minute. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming out to World Television Day. Just want to get the room settled. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem. Thank you very much. That was checked one nicely. Now please remain standing for me with the national anthem. And I'm asking you to remain standing as we invite UWI Mona to lead us in prayer.
Good evening, everyone. May you all heads in prayer. Our kind and righteous Father, we come before you this evening to give you glory. Thank you for your protection and guidance that has brought us thus far. On this momentous occasion, we thank you, Lord, for allowing us to celebrate World Television Day. We pray that you bless those who have made this day significant and those who work tirelessly to make it a possibility. Thank you for those who are here, Lord, and we ask that you hasten the footsteps of those who are yet to come. May your hand be over this evening's proceedings, and may you be glorified in everything we do. These and other mercies we pray, in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Thank you very much, UWI. You may be seated. Thank you so much. Professor Wabiti Warboko, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Education. Professor Donna Hope, Deputy Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Education. Dr. Livingston White, author and director from the Caribbean School of Media and Communication. Ms. Yvette Rowe, author and lecturer. Harold Francis, Programs Manager, Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. And Mr. Chapman, President of the Jamaica Film and Television Association. Kirk Buchanan, Deputy CEO and Director of Productions at Creative Production and Training Center. Trevor Johnson, Deputy General Manager, Television Jamaica. All these TV heavyweights in one room. When will this ever happen again? Distinguished guests, students, members of the University Committee, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good evening and welcome. It is World Television Day. My name is Delia Harris, and it's my absolute pleasure to be your Master of Ceremonies for this evening's proceedings. We are delighted to have you share with us in the celebration of the 3rd Annual World Television Day here. It's a prestigious event, it's CARIMAC, and it's held each year to commemorate the date on which the first World Television Forum was held in 1996 by the United Nations General Assembly. This worldwide observance is not only recognized for its commemorative stature, but also to provide a forum for discussions on matters related to television. This occasion marks the launch of a book that chronicles an aspect of the Jamaica television industry that has never before been given much detailed attention. The book is titled Still on Air, Producing Television in Small Markets. It documents the historical production and broadcast experiences of some of Jamaica's long-running television shows. You're going to see clips from some of them. I hope you recognize the programs when you see them. The authors, Yvette J. Rowe and Livingston A. White, are lecturers at the Caribbean School of Media and Communication, CARIMAC, which is in the Faculty of Humanities and Education. So we are extremely pleased to have the Dean with us today. So everyone, please help me to welcome Professor Wabinti Waraboko, who will bring us greetings.
Thank you, Madam Master of Ceremonies. Good evening, colleagues. And special salutation to Yvette Rowe and Livingston White, the persons whose work we are celebrating this evening. First of all, I must say that it gives me a great deal of pleasure to be part of this function. And I must say, with a little bit of confession, that this is perhaps the first time I'm having to, as Dean of the faculty, come over in this kind of capacity to participate in what CARIMAC is doing, beyond the formalities of going through application processes for promotion from staff from CARIMAC. So it gives me very great pleasure. But it also gives me very great pleasure because the work that we are celebrating today is a fine example of what would happen once colleagues with complementary academic expertise come together to work with a view to producing research, valuable research that would translate into a kind of publication that we see. I was particularly glad and committed myself to coming here because Dr. White, who is the director of CARIMAC, was kind enough, as soon as he got the first few copies of this book, to come over to my office and to present a copy of the book to me. I felt so particular. In fact, when he came, I was not there. But I saw it on my desk. And then I wanted to find out where he was, and I was told that he was in the Faculty of Humanities and Education video conferencing room. I had to stop whatever I was doing, walked across to him, whispered into his ears, and all that I said was thank you, and I walked back. And I said thank you to him and to Yvette to have invited me to participate in this function. These two colleagues are both interested in broadcasting and developmental communication. I had the opportunity, as I indicated to you, the book had been given to me. I had an opportunity of flipping through it and got impressed by the content itself, and got all the more impressed because part of this work was what Livingstone had to submit for his elevation to the rank of senior lecturer. So that almost immediately, when the reports from external assessors arrived, in part based on works that he had done which had been published by way of articles, but in a major way based on this particular work, I knew immediately that we had not mistaken in proposing him for elevation to the rank of senior lecturer. So these two individuals are interested in broadcasting and developmental communication, which is what this book is about. It's a book. The reviewer will tell us more about it, but as I indicated to you, I read it. I read it from the standpoint of a social historian. I read it from the standpoint as a lay consumer of television products, and I realized almost immediately that the book is also attempting to offer very practical suggestions to program producers, and it's also trying to provide a template for producing successful television programs. It goes beyond that. It tries to raise awareness about new media, about culture, about gender issues, including implications for local, regional, and global issues. It goes beyond that. It advances theorizing about knowledge processes related to communication, in particular, Caribbean communication patterns and processes. So what do we have here? What we have here is an academic text produced by colleagues in CARIMAC at a time when we have our competitors. The University of the West Indies has its own competitors producing graduates in the area of communication. Our distinction as a university, our distinction as a faculty, our distinction as CARIMAC has to be, therefore, the quality of the research material that we produce. The moment the University of the West Indies fails in that, we come down to a level that diminishes our claim as the premier institution in the Caribbean. Yes. And what this book has done is to stamp that image, to indicate that our claims are founded on the advancement of knowledge. We not only disseminate knowledge in the University of the West Indies, we produce knowledge. This is the distinction. And when any one of us undertakes that which makes us as proud as we are today, we have nothing but congratulations and thank you to those colleagues who have made that possible. On behalf of the faculty, I'd like to thank you, Yvette. I'd like to thank you, Livingstone, to have made us proud. My charge to the rest of us in CARIMAC is to follow the very example these two individuals, these two colleagues have done. Two hands will come together and you wash well. If you have a set of skills, and I have a set of skills, and by yourself alone, it will take you a longer time to achieve a certain thing. But because you could combine with me, we could make the journey faster and achieve the same set of ends. Then it makes sense for us to contribute our expertise with a view to making each one of us greater than what we were before. This is also, in part, what this work represents. I salute you all. Thank you.
Challenge quiz.
Music. This is audio. Please listen to the following clip and identify the artist. Glenmuir.
Barry Salmon.
That is correct. Biology. Paralysis agitans is another name for which degenerative disease of the brain? Parkinson's syndrome.
It all comes down to this. High schools from across the island have entered the challenge, but do they have the skill, the knowledge, and the temperament to move on to the next round? Let's find out. It's time for the opening challenge. In this section, teams will be asked questions alternately and will receive 1 point for each correct answer. Earlier we had the toss. Manchester won and asked Calabar to go first. This section lasts for 4 minutes, so please, may I have that time on the clock? Calabar, your first question is in geography. 2 of the 3 rivers in St. Thomas, Jamaica, are the Morant and the Plantain Garden. Name the third.
Yalas River. Yalas River.
Correct. Geography for Manchester. The town of Maypen in Clarendon, Jamaica, lies on the banks of which river?
A very good evening. Hope that you are well and dry, and to welcome you to yet another program discussion on Tuesday Forum. Tonight's program, well, yesterday was the International Day for Press Freedom, and we thought that maybe practitioners in the media ought to take a look at themselves. Certainly, there has been a demand for a new direction in the media, a new way of telling old stories, a new way of passing on information that it seems either we never understood, didn't get, or need to get at this point in time. Things that we need to be not only informed about, but educated about, and certainly we think of AIDS as a very pivotal issue in this whole area of information need and access. The question this evening we want to ask is, in the context of development issues and change in this society, do we have responsive media? Does the media want to be responsive? Ought it to be? Will it be? In what ways? And how do some of those persons who are involved in practicing in this field perceive that this change or response will take place?
The Honourable Carlton Alexander has again been honoured by his country. At the recent graduation exercises at the University of the West Indies, Mona, he was awarded the Honorary Doctor of Laws degree for outstanding public service. Each university campus is allowed to give only 2 honorary degrees a year, and this year one of the 2 to be honoured at the Cave Hill, Barbados campus is Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. Archbishop Tutu and Carlton Alexander have one thing in common. They are deeply committed to their people and have made extraordinary contributions to public life. Mr. Alexander is Chief Executive and Chairman of the Grace Kennedy Group of Companies, one of the most influential and powerful companies in Jamaica. And through his company, he's made a major contribution to the upliftment of the poor and has heavily supported cultural activities. Mr. Alexander embodies the virtues of the entrepreneurial class. He is patriotic, hard-working, resilient, and far-sighted. His virtues have paid off, and he's received the highest national honor, the Order of Jamaica, as well as the prestigious Martin Luther King Award. His rise to prominence wasn't overnight. Joining Grace Kennedy at age 17 as a stock clerk when there were only 17 employees, Mr. Alexander has moved to the position of Chief Executive in the company, which now has 2,000 employees. Mr. Alexander's goal has been simple. I always want to be top of the class, he says confidently. That's where he is, and Jamaica's all the better for it. Mr. Alexander is chairman of the Sepward Group of Companies, the Jamaica National Investment Promotions Limited, the Jamaica National Export Corporation, and serves the Jamaica Export Credit Insurance Company and the National Commercial Bank. But what was the process like from stock clerk to chief executive? What are the secrets of his success, and can they be duplicated? Ian Boyne gets these answers in this profile.
Mr. Alexander, your rise to success has been spectacular. You moved from billing clerk to chairman and chief executive of one of the most powerful companies in Jamaica, the Grace Kennedy Group of Companies. Can that experience be duplicated by young people today, or was it just for your time?
You and I whatever has happened can always be repeated. I think today in Jamaica there is great opportunity for people. And if you look around you, You will see a lot of people from very small beginnings making it and doing quite well.
Is celebrating 50 years. And that's amazing because that means since we were babies, School Challenge Quiz has been a part of the fabric of Jamaica's nationhood, yes? And then I realized I couldn't answer a lot of the questions that were being asked. After 50 years, I still can't. Profile. What an interesting introduction. So now I realize why Ian's introduction is so long. Because it used to be all on tape. And then I thought, whatever happened to those cars? Yes. So a round of applause again. Nice. School Challenge Quiz Tuesday Forum and Profile. For those of you who are tweeting, if you're on Instagram, the hashtags that we're using today are hashtag World TV Day and hashtag We Love TV. So those are the two things that we're using, hashtag World TV Day and hashtag We Love TV. I want to thank the Dean for his greetings. You know, Dean, listening to you, I thought this book represents the best of humanities and education. There's a little library and information in there about archiving. There's something about the history in there. It's an education resource. There's cultural studies in there, why we watch, what we watch, how we watch it, and of course it's about media. So it's like taking everything out of humanities and putting it into this one beautiful book. So it really represents the department. The book wouldn't have been possible without the support of various organizations that all play a role in Jamaica's television industry. So now we're going to hear brief remarks from representatives of these organizations. And at this time, I just want to make the speakers know what order the presentations will be in for ease of flow. So I won't have to be introducing everyone. So it will be as follows. Ms. Carol Francis from PBCJ, followed by Annalisa Chapman from JAFTA, Kurt Buchanan, CPTC, and Trevor Johnson, TVJ. So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite Programs Manager of Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica, Carol Francis, to offer her remarks.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. The Public Broadcasting Corporation, or the PBCJ's Audio-Visual Archives, has the equivalent of approximately 150,000 hours of television content. Within the tapes is the history and culture of the JBC and the nation's cultural heritage. Increasingly, there has been a recognition that the audio-visual collections of the PBCJ are vital resources for historical, cultural, political, and social research. It's a working archive. There's a demand for the archival material for various users, other broadcasting entities, government agencies, politicians, researchers, teachers, students, musicians, and writers, which is why we're here this evening. The launch of the book, Still on Air, looks at hundreds of television programs, including iconic ones that have been on the air, some for over 30 years. Schools Challenge Quiz has been on the air since 1969. It is the longest running television program in Jamaica and the English-speaking Caribbean. 2018 marks 31 years since the interview show Profile began. There is also Lime Tree Lane, Tuesday Forum, which you saw, ER, and Creative Cooking, just to name a few. Still on Air gives us insights into the evolution of broadcasting in Jamaica, what is required to produce programs that are affordable, as well as the impact of these programs on the culture and behavior of Jamaicans. The authors, Yvette Rowe and Livingston White, did this in part by utilizing the archives. the PBCJ archives is likely to have other interesting program content you don't know about. For example, material on world leaders like Margaret Thatcher, Robert Mugabe, Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, Ronald Reagan, Fidel Castro, Pope John Paul II, and I could go on and on and on. And you might have forgotten, for example, the epic Jamaican film Salome, featuring Bobby Gissays, who eventually became the director of JBC in 1982. Salome is the biblical story of the young woman who demanded the head of John the Baptist. And you might also have forgotten the program Tea Time, which featured Alma Mokien, and a truly engaging feature with Eartha Kitt when she performed her classic hits across the island. Or programs that were broadcast, some before some of us here, well, not us, but you all were born, such as a children's program called Punchinella. All these and more can be found in the PBCJ's archive. And I must make a plug here for the National Library of Jamaica, because we collaborate on a lot of stuff, and that's where some of the JBC content went for safekeeping. Now, the first locally produced children's program was a show called Romper Room, and it aired in 1967 with Sonia Anderson. 3 years later, it was hosted by Pat Lazarus. Miss Lazarus went on to host or to read the evening news in the 1980s. Romper Room, incidentally, preceded Sesame Street, which aired in the United States, or premiered in the United States in 1969. Finding interesting content in an archive is a key research challenge. If you already know the title and the date of what you're looking for, it makes the task a little easier. However, most of this content is still on magnetic tape in formats which are now obsolete. They need to be digitized for ease of access. The PBCJ is now involved in a project to digitize its audiovisual archives so the valuable, unique content can be made available in the digital space. The book being launched this evening, Still on Air, is an important one. It's also appropriate that it's being launched today, which is being observed around the globe as World Television Day. Congratulations to you, Yvette and Livingston, from us at the PBCJ for this valuable work.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carol. And now, President of the Jamaica Film and Television Association, Annalisa Chapman.
Good evening, everyone. The combined events of World Television Day and the launch of Still on the Air further highlight the important influence and impact that television has had and will continue to have on society. And the Jamaica Film and Television Association joins in the celebration of both. The release of Still on the Air comes at a very opportune time where developments in and access to technology and the appetite for local content at least appear to be on the rise. Yvette Rowe was actually one of the founding members and directors of JAFTA and played a key role in providing insight and championing the interests of the television community. As a director of CARIMAC, Dr. White has also supported JAFTA with critical creative production initiatives. With cumulative experience in television production, broadcast journalism, communications, the creative arts, and as educators, both authors have ably lent their expertise to provide a work that can provide not only valuable insight to, but also stems from the insight of members of our own film and television community. As JAFTA is a not-for-profit organization geared at cultivating a structured local audiovisual community and developmental initiatives to protect and advance the film and television industry, many of the principles and approaches set out in Still on the Air align with our own mandates for capacity building, strengthening our creative community, and developing and promoting quality audiovisual content. As the book itself notes, the relationship between film and television has always been close. But more so, it highlights the importance of having a very close-knit community with a shared vision, especially when dealing with scarce resources and a smaller market in order to sustain and to make and sustain local projects. Without giving too much away, Still on the Air taps into a key ingredient, that the right people and Jamaicans being able to see themselves has always been a part of any successful local endeavor. We have seen that in the recent surge of the short film movement, and the same often holds true for television content. Many of our members, JAFTA members, have often aired concerns about struggling to marry the creative, business, and practical considerations of a production. And this book clearly examines not only the creative inputs, but the methodology and commitment that goes into funding, market research, distribution, and all the technical, economic, and cultural forces at play in creating any successful production. There is absolutely no doubt that the talent and quality stories, both real and fabled, exist in Jamaica, and more exciting projects and personalities have been coming out of the television sphere. JAFTA and other organizations will continue to play their respective roles in advancing and supporting these interests, and with guidance to practitioners from works like Still on the Air, there's also no doubt that the revolution and evolution of local content will also be televised. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Annalisa. And now we invite Deputy CEO and Director of Productions at the Creative Production and Training Center, Kurt Buchanan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really happy to bring greetings on behalf of the Creative and Production Training Center, CPTC. It's even more pleasurable for me because I was one of the persons interviewed during the research stage of this book. I want to congratulate you, Dr. White and Yvette, for your valuable insights in your latest work, Still on Air. The CPTC is proud that its Ilangoli Ride program is counted among the trendsetters and success stories that have stood the test of time in our small market. Remaining on the air for 31 years is no easy feat. TJ can attest to that. Part of the reason we think is that the CPTC has been able to keep the program on the air is because there remains a demand for this program. We must take time out now to really big up Kerry Robinson, who has been with the program for over 30 years and is still with the program even today. Jamaicans appreciate the value and history of culture that the program exposes. In addition, it shines a light on the authentic Jamaican people and places, harking back to a time in the Jamaican experience that is now fast disappearing. Our role at CPTC is to capture and preserve this part of history and the culture for the benefit of today's and future generation. For we believe that as Jamaicans, we have much to be proud of and much to celebrate. There are many more stories to tell, and I'm certain the insights gained while examining the issue of why some TV programs survive and some fail will be useful in helping some of the younger producers today to avoid the pitfalls that exist. Once again, we'd like to thank you, Levy. Thank you very much for this book, and we think that it will be a very valuable tool to those who are coming up and those who really want to understand what has happened in the industry. Thank you again.
Thank you also, Mr. Buchanan. And now our final speaker, Deputy General Manager of Television Jamaica, Trevor Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We are still on air. It's a really very valuable text. I'm representing Claire Grant, who could not make it this afternoon. She sent her congratulations to you both. And I'm also representing the rest of the TVJ fraternity. Yvette, you're very close to me. We have worked on a number of projects. And I want to say that we at TVJ are very pleased to be associated with this book launch. It provides some really valuable information that can be used as a launching pad for the young generations to come to continue this conversation. I want to also use this opportunity to say that the work that you have produced take a lot of commitment, creativity to distill the information available to you, and to really stay with it to really produce this content that we are seeing this afternoon. I really want to really congratulate both of you again. TVJ takes local content very seriously. Since we took over the JBC, we have continued the tradition of producing content, quality content. We are also very pleased that 3 of the products that is being featured in this book are ER, Profile, and School Shine Squeeze. We're very happy about that. I want to also use this opportunity now to recognize Marcia Forbes, TVJ's first general manager, because a part of this mantra that we now continue to embrace is to provide local content for our Jamaican audiences and also the diaspora far and wide. We at TVJ now boast a ratio between local and foreign content of about 70 to 30%. And with the help of our sponsors and the continued commitment and association and partnerships that we forge with our local producers and directors, we will continue to really expand this ratio. I want to, again, thank both of you and wish all the success that this book will capture and generate in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson, and thanks to all our speakers. Now, once again, here is a trip down memory lane.
Highland Gully Ride takes us on a trek through Jamaica to places on the map we've never heard of or visited, and will uncover the stories and legends behind these interesting place names. Highland Gully Ride takes us on a trek through Jamaica to places on the map we've never heard of or visited, and will uncover the stories and legends behind these interesting place names. Look here, for example. Here's Cupid, spelled K-U-P-U-I-S, and Danks, both found in the parish of Clarendon. You've never heard of them? Stay on board. Still, Roy. Clarendon is found in the county of Middlesex, right in the middle of the island. There are 4 other parishes in this county: St. Catherine, St. Mary, St. Anne, and Manchester. Clarendon has an area of 467 square miles and a population of about 200,000. To get to Cupid's and Danks, we drive through the parish capital, Maypen, past the old jailhouse built in 1894, through the busy town centre. The journey to Cupid's and Danks takes us through some winding curves and turns. On the way, we stopped several times to ask for directions.
No, I'm a stranger here now.
Oh, you're a stranger?
Oh, yes, I'm a stranger. I'm from Hanover, capital Lucy.
As we climbed the hill up to Cupid's, we couldn't help noticing how busy people were. Digging up a pumpkin patch, washing clothes, picking peas. Even the animals were busy. Cupid's is one of the many agricultural communities in the hills of Clarendon, which was originally part of a larger property. We met a farmer who is also a preacher, Mr. Joseph Dillon, who was on his way to his field. He had spent his entire life in the area and told us how Cupid's got its name.
When I come to sense and heard of this pennants and Cupids, this side were belonged to a woman by Mother Cupids. She's buried back in Danks. I know the grave. So that side was Lord Pennant from England.
The pulse you'll come to this year is a completely different pulse. This pulse has seen a $6 million renovation of facilities and establishment of facilities geared primarily for audience comfort and satisfaction.
General admission, Cooper says, will be limited, with most seats reserved for the music fraternity. As for the price of a ticket, for now he'll only say above $1,000. A television-focused Jamaica Music Awards got thumbs up from 2 of this year's nominees.
We will be amongst our people in Jamaica, and then people abroad who couldn't be here can get to see us at the same time and root for us as their people. So it's a nice connection, you know.
Huge marketing possibilities.
Well, I don't really, I've never thought about the marketing possibilities much, but anything that we can be involved in, as long as we're getting across a message.
Welcome to Rapping. I'm Norman Martin.
And I'm Lydia Dyer. Together, we'll be bringing you the first program in a brand new series geared just for you. We'll soon be seeing and hearing from a really big reggae star. Guess who?
You'll find out soon. But I'm sure most of you have been out to Hellshire Beach at some point in time. Some of us go to watch the girls profiling, or to watch the girls who are watching the guys who are watching the girls profile. Whatever you do, suppose one day you drove out to Hellshire Beach and it just wasn't there anymore. Can you imagine? Well, that could happen if we're not careful. Not overnight, mind you, but much too soon. Wells to hear more about it.
So feel free to use fresh pineapples. Remember, pineapples are very rich in vitamin C. Put 2 scoops of ice cream in the glass. Now, this is an ideal way to end a meal if you're not using a dessert. It's very filling, very attractive, and very easy. Any of the kids can do this. Then top this with some ginger ale. You're going to get the ice cream floating. And then decorate with some flaked coconut. Now, this is easy for you to do at home. Just remove the back from the coconut and toast. Grate the coconut finely or coarsely, depending on your taste, and just put it in the oven until you get to the desired color. Now, we are going to be decorating this with some cherries. Now, remember, we tell you that it's always good to have your meals attractive. Very important, very important. And notice we're just putting a straw in it, putting the cherries on the straw.
Entertaining. Did you see the fashion on Hill and Gully ride? Yes. And the man said, when I come to Saints, a lot of us students don't get that, you know, when we're in the exam, Saints not come to we. He says, when I come to Saints, and then ER, he said the above $1,000 like it was a lot. Yes. I saw Junior Tucker, he doesn't preach in those earrings anymore. And the man said, can you imagine not having going to Hellshire Beach and see the beach? Everybody say yes. And finally, cooking with grace, eating in faith. I saw pineapple juice and then ice cream, then ginger ale, then something, and then a straw. Wow, we've come a long way. At this time, I want to invite Brittany Clark, and she's going to introduce our wonderful lady who's reviewed the book for us. She's going to tell us some more about it, so please make Brittany feel welcome.
Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Delia Harris, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, Professor Wariboko, Guests of Honor, Dr. Livingston White, Director of the Caribbean School of Media and Communication, and Ms. Yvette J. Rowe, co-authors of Still on Air. Representatives from the University of the West Indies Press, specially invited speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce the reviewer of Still on Air, Producing Television for Local Markets, Professor Donna Hope, a woman of esteem and absolute finesse, no stranger to the University of the West Indies arena. Professor Donna P. Hope has served as a senior lecturer in the Institute of Caribbean Studies and Deputy Dean for Graduate Studies and Research in the Faculty of Humanities and Education here at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. Her specializations in academia span the disciplines of popular culture, gender, music, and most appropriately, media and communication over the last 2 decades. She has a distinguished record of scholarship and publication with over 40 publications, including 5 books, and has worked as a reviewer for the UWI Press. She has presented for numerous academic papers, conference presentations, specially invited lectures, and seminars on gender, culture, music, power, and related social issues in Jamaica, the USA, Europe, Latin and South America, and the Caribbean. A well-known media commentator on cultural, social, and political issues, Professor Hope's background spans more than 2 decades in the electronic and print media, including as a producer and radio talk show host working with programs like The Breakfast Club, Nationwide, Disclosure, Straight Talk, and 96 Degrees. Professor Hope holds a Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication, Master of Philosophy in Government, both from the UWI, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Cultural Studies from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, USA. A veteran in the industry, Professor Hope's academic output is balanced by her motivational works. She is now putting the finishing touches on her first motivational book titled Chicken Back Gravy and Such Delights, Life Lessons from My Journey. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our main speaker, Professor Donna P. Hope.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you for that introduction, and I've walked with my copy of the book. As you can see, it has been well used. Ms. Delia Harris, Master of Ceremonies. Professor Binti Wariboko, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Education. Ms. Carol Francis, representing Mr. Keith Campbell, Executive Director of the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. Ms. Annalisa Chapman, President of the Jamaica Film and Television Association. Mr. Kirk Buchanan, Deputy CEO and Director of Production at CPTC. Mr. Trevor Johnson, representing Mrs. Claire Grant, General Manager of Television, Jamaica Limited, Radio and RGR Gleaner Communications Group. Ms. Brittany Clark, final year IMC student at CARIMAC. And I see Dr. Joseph Powell, General Manager of the UWI Press, and Ms. Donna Muirhead and other colleagues from the UWI Press. Authors, Ms. Yvette Rowe and Dr. Livingston White in your capacity as authors, co-authors today. Other distinguished guests, faculty members, university colleagues, and media colleagues, and I see Anthony Miller, looking very young on screen. And in the audience, Dr. Marcia Forbes, former General Manager of TVJ, and a whole host of students, graduate and undergraduate students, some of whom I teach, had a class with some of them today. Family and friends, colleagues, good evening. Before we continue this evening, I want to ask you if you have heard about that husband and wife. Did you? No, you have not. This is a little story to segue us into the discussion on the book. Now, a very angry wife met her husband at the door early one morning. There was alcohol on his breath and lipstick on his collar, of all things. I assume, she snarled, that there is good reason for you to become waltzing here at 6 a.m. in the morning. There is, he replied. Breakfast. There will be no breakfast here this evening, but we all in this room have good, really excellent reason to have come waltzing in here at about 6 o'clock this evening or close to it. We are here to bear witness to what we must recognize as a watershed moment. This is the public celebration of the birth of an important new book, still on air. It is indeed timely that the publishers and authors have chosen to celebrate the birth of this book during National Journalism Week here in Jamaica and World Television Day. And why is it so timely? Why do I say this? And I want to underscore a quote here from Still on Air, and this is the book. The history of television in Jamaica is partly the history of the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation. Yes, this is so because the state-owned JBC had a 30-year monopoly as the only television entity in Jamaica from its first broadcast in 1963 to 1993 when CVM television went on air. In this regard, Still on Air is a long overdue work that has various incarnations in its sleek and incisive volume. First, and some of our speakers have indicated this, it is a long outstanding history of television in Jamaica. Our current era is a period of rapid transformation with trends in technology, distribution, media convergence, and organizational and audience shifts that have resulted in massive changes in how we create, distribute, and access the media. It is therefore imperative that we examine the road we have traveled and identify best practices that could guarantee both survival and success in this highly competitive global media environment. Consequently, Still on Air complements attempts by a few others to document for posterity aspects of the histories of Jamaican media and to provide us with some information about television, for example. However, this cutting-edge volume fills what I see as a yawning gap, what I have identified as a dearth of well-synthesized and peer-reviewed material from the academy that is backed by critical research and presented through deep and cutting-edge analysis into what we are celebrating here today. Second, Still on Air is a template for success in media production. It promises and does deliver key insights on successful production of television in small markets like Jamaica and elsewhere in the region. Third, this book is a critical resource pack filled with rich empirical data, including tables, charts, and a wealth of material in the appendices that can be further mined for additional research and publication. So yes, I read the entire book from cover to cover, as I told some of the students in my class today. Karim, I see around the back. What is the essence of Still on Air? In essence, Still on Air succinctly provides information about the social, historical, and cultural transformations in the Jamaican media, and in particular television landscape, over the period of its history since 1963 to 2015. In this regard, Rowe and White's intensive research and critical analysis unravel many connections that are clear but have never been clarified, all while ostensibly providing a template for producing successful television programs in small markets. Quoting from Burbank, they opine that longevity on air is synonymous with success in television programs. This longevity is based in our small market context on a mix of factors that are identified, analyzed, and explicated in Still on Air. Using a case study approach, Rowe and White unearths a wealth of information on 4 popular television programs that are still on air as of 2015 when the manuscript was completed, and still on air today in November 2018. The success of Schools Challenge Quiz, Profile, Hill and Gully Ride, and Entertainment Report, of which you have seen clips of some of the very early programs, including some of the first programs here tonight, are a testament to a convergence of several factors which are laid bare in Still on Air. For Rowe and White, the secret to successful television programs is based on a mix of 7 critical factors, which they identify as people, funding, technology, production, content, routine, and relevance. My brief presentation tonight cannot and will not expand on the intricacies of these 7 critical factors. And so I'm pausing at this juncture to invite all students, graduate and undergraduate, researchers, journalists, broadcasters, media managers, other interested parties, colleagues, to purchase and read Still on Air to get a clear picture of the keys to successfully producing television in small markets like Jamaica and others in the Caribbean. I'm encouraging you to make it your go-to resource. But what is clear is that in the main, the 4 television programs, School Challenge Quiz, Hill and Gully Ride, Profile, and Entertainment Report, were all products in the main of the public broadcasting ethos under the state-owned media model that transitioned into what we now see as a liberalized and highly competitive media marketplace. It is arguable that, among other things, each program's focus on a unique component of the Jamaican way of life, that is, Jamaican culture, helps to guarantee its individual success and continued relevance. And what are these unique components? And most of us, all of us in this room would have been exposed to all of these programs or most of these programs at different points in our lives. They are still on air. The almost 5 decades old Schools Challenge Quiz is oriented around the competitive ethos that colors our society. It incorporates the face-off that is integrated into Jamaican life and culture, that essential clash of dualities. In her wisdom, creator Hope Stewart also recognized that in a small society like Jamaica, an educational show would not have any substantive support from the limited numbers of tertiary alumni and students, at that time maybe less than 2% of the Jamaican population. And so, Schools Challenge Quiz, which was modeled off a university program in Britain, was birthed as a competition for the secondary level with an endless supply of competitors, alumni, and audience support. It is still on air today. Hill and Gully Ride, on the other hand, is brokered in both its structure and content on the pervasive call and response motif that remains an integral component of Jamaican life and culture. It is rooted in the Jamaican oral tradition of storytelling and is deeply connected to the rural agrarian ethos that remains at the core of our historical being. It tells us who we are and who we have been and provides us with material about the best aspects of the Jamaican self that remains important to our lives here in Jamaica. Profile, on the other hand, has a strong human interest appeal that is backed by its stories of success. Oftentimes, individuals who come from very poor, working-class families who triumph against extreme odds. Profile weaves the ultimate stories of triumph over adversity that Jamaicans love to hear and tell. As Rowan White reminds us, appearing on Profile became a mark of distinction. It is still on air today. And Entertainment Report. Entertainment Report is oriented around Jamaican popular culture and represents the epitome of entertainment journalism in Jamaica, with its focus on music culture, fashion, food, film, and fine art, and other related areas of Jamaican life and culture. ER's beginnings in 1991 coincided with the rise of the pervasive, flashy, and highly colorful dancehall culture and remains intertwined with same to date. Its cutting-edge programs bring you up-to-the-minute reports and analysis on events that occur in the popular culture sphere almost as they are unfolding. Coming up for air from reading Still on Air. One of the things that I also recognize in Rowe and White's representation of this work is that one of the critical underpinnings for success that shone through the work very carefully and comes out in these 7 factors is passion. The passion of men like Michael Gonzalez, Carey Robertson, Ian Boyne, and Anthony Miller. Success in small markets like Jamaica must also be understood as a feature of the passion of the people involved in the production. those people who make this their life's work. The business of television production becomes their life's work. Working against the odds, many times without enough funding, with the ability, in many instances, to inspire, cajole, or motivate their team members to work long hours and to make the production their own. For example, speaking under the heading of relevance, and in this instance, cultural relevance, Rowan White notes that it takes a dedicated crew to report to work for a 10 p.m. call to capture footage of an artist scheduled for a midnight appearance who does not take the stage until 6 a.m. And this is a reality. Speaking about entertainment report, for example. And there are other such stories. For example, the work also speaks about Hill and Gully Ride and the fact that the program has to be captured in a single day because of a lack of adequate funding in many instances for overnight stay in many of these remote rural areas. And so we understand the kind of importance that people and the dedication and passion that they have to these programs, the role that this plays in the success of programs that remain still on air. One of the things that also comes very importantly that arises from the body of this work is that the four names that are associated very clearly with them are male. Success, at least for many of these long-standing programs, is also male or has also been male. That gender divide in Jamaican media came to me very forcefully during my journey through Still on Air. And even as things change, and I'm seeing in the room individuals, women like Sadiqa Daram, for example, who have created and are pioneering their own programs in the media today. Even as things change, however, we must understand how and why we are here today, this evening, celebrating Still on Air. The journey and the history and the underlying planks in this journey must be understood, and this work provides us with a clear analysis of many of the things that are important. The programs that are identified and others that are not mentioned survived, thrived, and continue to do so through multiple social, cultural, political, economic, and technological transformations over the last 5 decades. Indeed, of the 14 genres and over 300 free-to-air local television programs that Rowan White unearthed between 1963 and 2015, the 4 identified are the best exemplars of success in small media markets like Jamaica. Now, I will not steal the author's thunder because they are coming up to talk about the book and their journey to the completion and publication of this book. But people in the audience will understand that I have had a very close relationship to the coming into being of this book. I've had a long-standing relationship with Dr. Livingston White, Livy, my friend and colleague since I was an undergraduate here at CARIMAC. And this meant that I was regaled with a host of stories on a regular basis of the often humorous treks that he and Yvette engaged in to far in and far out places on a kind of hill and gully ride foray to collect information for this book. These stories, for me, wove a humorous but really critical narrative of the depth and breadth of the oftentimes painstaking research that set the foundation for this sleek volume that I have up here today in my hand. Don't worry about the little yellow things. Hours and hours of archival searches, often resulting in missing or discarded information, or no information at all. Hours and hours of travel across Jamaica to remote locations, oftentimes making repeat trips, to sit with individuals who are named as intimately connected to the development of what we now enjoy as a more than 5 decades old industry. And hours of taping and then transcribing these interviews from which to mine both information and additional leads to follow, all to pull together this critical and long outstanding volume. Hours and hours of searching through the tapes, and a lot of what you see here, the first program that was broadcast, 1987 first programs. You have seen quite a few clips from first programs, and you have, I mean, it is very humorous to look at ourselves in that reflective kind of historical glance, but also to understand that the work has to be done to mine the archival spaces, to find these pieces of information, and then to produce them in a way that you can have it synthesized in this kind of material presented here this evening. And so I want to say kudos to you, Dr. White and Ms. Rowe, Livy and Yvette, for doing this work. Now, I don't want to bore you tonight because we have many other things to do, and Still on Air is here with us. But in the final analysis, as I get towards the end of my presentation, Still on Air underscores for all of us in this room, media managers, producers, program hosts, broadcasters, journalists, academics, researchers, writers, archivists, publishers, all of us, the imperative of record keeping at the highest level. It is very important. It also highlights how and why empirical research still remains a necessity in our region and our country, because we have failed miserably to archive and preserve our artifacts. We have failed at careful documentation of our own histories. We have lagged behind in the writing of our histories for posterity and for exemplification by those who follow. Still on Air succeeds in filling a yawning gap from the university, from the academy, but also from the media, on the documentation of the history of media and television in Jamaica. Still on Air captures the essential connections between the transformations in Jamaican society and culture and the connected moves in technology and media. Still on Air provides clear and critical analysis of the success barometer for producing television in small markets, a practical and crucial component of the shifting contemporary media environment in which we all live, work, and play. In its current articulation, and for many of us who are here in this room as teachers, lecturers, students, and researchers, Still on Air is also represented as an excellent textbook with cues that perhaps a companion workbook may follow. It is a resource book overflowing with information, for example, in the various appendices, tables, and charts. For me, this will stand as one of the required readings for a course I teach in the Institute of Caribbean Studies, Entertainment, Media, and Culture, a course that has suffered significantly from a lack of books on the Caribbean and local media landscape. Significantly. Thank you, Dr. White and Ms. Rowe. And Still on Air makes recommendations for the way forward in this new and emerging media landscape. We are living in a world of rapid transformation where media and technology are constantly in flux. It makes suggestions on how to benefit from media convergence, how to harness profits from franchising and format exporting, how to target feasible genres, how to manage developments in distribution, how to manage audience trends, and how to document information about television programs for posterity. For example, there is on one of the pages in the book a sort of outline as to the best way to label a television program, so that when others come behind you and are searching to find it, it will be less difficult. This is indeed a book for posterity. It liquor, but it very, very talawa. In closing, I say to my colleagues, friends, co-authors Yvette Rowe and Livingston White, kudos to you. Kudos and more kudos, my colleagues and friends. Thank you. And that's a wrap.
Thank you very much for that, Professor Ho. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for, the man and woman of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the authors of Still on Air, Producing Television in Small Markets, Ms. Yvette Rowe and Dr. Livingston White.
me. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to everyone for supporting our book launch today.
We thank Professor Hope for her review of the book. In our response, we want to tell the story of why we began working on a project like this, how we did it, and end by making some suggestions for future research.
In about 2012, Yvette and I worked as part of a research team, and during that process, we would have meetings to discuss our research ideas and possible publications. As university lecturers, and our dean reminded us of this, that we are expected to contribute to the generation of knowledge, to help society understand and deal with its various challenges. So in those meetings, we spoke about the state of local television programming and production. We were encouraged by the team to write a book on Jamaican television, given our observations and our experience in the industry.
Livingston White has worked in Jamaica at the Creative Production and Training Centre, CPTC, where he was mentored by Wycliffe Bennett and worked on the teenage magazine show Rapping. He also worked in various production roles as presenter, production assistant and producer, working for Doing the Tea, a Jamaica Tourist Board production. In addition to appearing on Morning Time, Livingston also did live commentary at Outside Broadcasts. He's worked in various genres, including magazine, news and current affairs, and drama.
My co-author Yvette Rowe has worked in television for over 30 years, ranging from London Weekend Television, British Broadcasting Corporation's BBC Choice, BBC World Service, the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, to Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation's JBC TV, and Television Jamaica TVJ. She has worked as a producer-director, presenter, news reporter, scriptwriter, researcher, editor, videographer, and documentarian. She's been involved with various formats: documentary, news and current affairs, drama, and entertainment.
Our discussions, therefore, were informed by these experiences, and our colleagues felt it was time to put all our ideas in a book. We became interested in why Jamaican television shows remained on air and what accounted for long-running shows.
In January 2014, we began writing book chapters for a book to be titled Why They Run, that would focus on the longest-running television shows in Jamaica. Our research led us to exploring what accounted for a show remaining on air. Based on our analysis, we developed 7 factors that accounted for a successful local television show. We submitted the first full manuscript in September 2015 to the UWI Press with an updated title, Still on Air, Jamaica's Longest Running Television Shows.
As is customary with an academic publisher, the work was blind peer-reviewed. We received excellent comments from reviewers who felt the book was worthy of publishing after we made some revisions. We spent the next year and a half, from 2016 to 2017, during every break we got from teaching, doing research at the audiovisual libraries of PBCJ and CPTC, as well as the National Library of Jamaica.
After identifying over 300 local television shows, we organized sections of the book using genres, and our analysis later revealed that there were 5 particular genres that were more likely to be produced in a small television market like Jamaica.
We learned a lot from the process of rewriting and finding information about television shows in Jamaica. We did interviews with over 120 individuals who worked in television in this country. Some very shy production crew members really opened up to tell us about their experiences working in local television.
We did archival searches at the National Library of Jamaica because many of the early television shows produced in Jamaica were not properly stored. We ended up searching through the TV program schedules printed in our national newspapers from 1963, when television programming began in Jamaica, to 2015, which signaled the end of the period covered in the book. People in and around East and Tower Street in the vicinity of the National Library thought we worked at the library, especially during the summer of 2016.
We met lots of supporters along the way. The National Librarian at the time of writing the book, Winsome Hudson, and her team not only helped us find what we were looking for, but also suggested sources. We were introduced to the Wycliffe Bennett collection, which had artifacts from JBC TV during the days when Mr. Bennett managed the station. We were introduced to the Louise Bennett collection. That included information on the early days of the children's program Ring Ding from the 1970s.
We ran into co-workers at the library, like Professor James Robertson from the Department of History and Archaeology, who after seeing us on several visits at the library, suggested possible sources of information, especially when we told him that we had challenges finding information on the early years of Jamaican television. He linked us to his former history student, Kimberly Blackwin, for example, who worked at the Jamaica Archives and Records Department in Spanish Town. There we found the annual reports of the JBC that provided us with information about shows produced during the 70s and 80s for JBC TV.
Former general managers of JBC TV loaned us records from their personal files. As we researched books, persons we met would tell a story of their experience with local television in Jamaica. Sociologist Peter Aspute, one day at the National Library, reminded us of his performance on Ring Ding. Indeed, many Jamaicans will remind you of their favourite local television shows, and our book will take you down memory lane.
We as authors are happy that we have been able to document an aspect of Jamaican culture that has not been properly archived. You may not be able to see a full episode or series of television shows like Ring Ding or Where It's At that aired in the 1970s, but our book provides evidence that they existed, and we think that's very important.
In this book...
Thank you.
Thank you. In this book, we focused on television shows, their programming and production. We see this as the foundation for future research about television in Jamaica. Many other areas of television require research attention: audiences, media effects, technology, and user-generated content. We stopped our analysis at 2015. Since then, several more shows have been created and others continue to be on air.
So we encourage other researchers to continue building on this body of work. We proposed 7 factors that contribute to a television show's success. We want you to test them and document if they actually work. This way, we can build a solid framework for producing television in small markets.
This book is a celebration of television shows in Jamaica. In writing it, we were careful to tell the story of our television producers as a way of validating creating shows relevant to our audiences. We wanted to empower our producers to see their shows as valid, based on their own merit, without reference to foreign TV shows.
We do hope the book will become one of, if not the main source of information about television shows in Jamaica. We did not find every single start date for all the over 300 shows. And if you have additional information, please update us. We encourage producers to carefully document the shows you have created and make them accessible to researchers so that more research can be done on television. This kind of work can only help to strengthen our industry and sustain the effort to show our people themselves on television.
Once again, thanks to everyone for your support. You've all played a role in making this book and the launch today a possibility. From the UWI press team, the final year PR students, to our colleagues in the Faculty of Humanities and Education, CARIMAC, and the entire television industry. Thank you. Let's keep producing successful television. Keep those shows relevant for our audiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. White and Ms. Rowe. We're now going to move to the presentation of books to various distinguished libraries across the corporate area. We invite one representative from each library in attendance to be presented with a copy of the book. So, authors. So first, Ms. Cheryl Keane from the UWI Mona Campus Library. Mrs. Monique Forey Scott from the National Library of Jamaica. National Library of Jamaica, Mrs. Forey Scott. And Mrs. Melanie Leach from the Jamaica Library Service. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
That's it?
Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. Now, I'm happy to tell you that the launch was planned in collaboration with the final year public relations students in CARIMAC's Integrated Marketing Communication undergraduate degree. And I'm going to ask all the final year PR students to come to the front of the room so that we can acknowledge them and encourage them. You see, the young people know how to take pictures, you know, they just came and stood right where they needed to be. Taking photos, I know based on Professor Hope's review of the book and all you've heard, you're excited to have your own copies. So I want to let you know that you can do just that because the UWI Press sales team, they're here, and a copy of the book is $4,400. Don't worry, we always have a card machine if you don't have cash. So the UWI Press sales team, they're here. Thank you, students. And for those persons who like to shop online because it's Black Friday weekend and they want to be a part of that cultural experience, the book is on sale on Amazon, $35 online, so you can purchase the book online as well. And there's a Kindle version as well. So buy the book here, and then because you want to have it on the Kindle, you know, you go and you buy it as well. And make sure you have both. And now to move the vote of thanks, here is Bianca Heslop, final year student, Integrated Marketing Communication. Bianca?
Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Delia Harris, distinguished guests, students, members of the University Committee, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, good evening. I am honored and privileged to have been given the opportunity to extend a vote of thanks to all who have contributed their efforts to making this event possible. It is no doubt that the success and execution of this event would not have been possible without the efforts of each and every individual. Firstly, I'd like to thank our specially invited guests. Please stand. Professor Wari Boko, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education. You can please remain standing when I call your name. Carol Francis, Programs Manager of Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica. Annalisa Chapman, President of the Jamaica Film and Television Association. Kurt Buchanan, Director of Productions, Creative Production and Training Center. And Mr. Trevor Johnson, Deputy General Manager of Television Jamaica. We thank you for giving the opening remarks and taking the time out in playing a role in this event. Secondly, I express gratitude to our lovely reviewer, Professor Donna Hope. Can you please stand, Professor? We're truly appreciative of your insights. I would also extend gratitude to our renowned lecturers and authors, Dr. Livingston White and Miss Yvette Rowe, who have made this staging of World Television Day a memorable one with the launch of the book, Still on Air, Producing Television in Small Markets. Could you please stand? Your accomplishments are incomparable and inspiring to us all. To our lovely Master of Ceremonies, Miss Delia Harris, for graciously hosting this event throughout the evening. Could I please invite you here, Ms. Harris? I now take the time to thank the organizers of this event, the Public Relations Group from the Final Year Integrated Marketing Communications Program, for successfully planning and executing such a pleasing event. All your efforts invested have not gone unnoticed. I also extend a hearty thank you to all our patrons who have come out to support this event. Lastly, special thanks to our amazing sponsors, CPJ, Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica Limited, Restaurant Associates Limited, Gift Guru, Lifespan Water, Footprint Cafe, and Lux Events. All this couldn't have been possible without your contributions. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, heartfelt gratitude. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
And with that vote of thanks, all that's left to be said is Ms. Rowe and Dr. White will be signing books for you. So hurry to the back. Make sure you get your copies. And there are refreshments also here in the room. But thank you so much, everyone. It's World Television Day. Help us to stay on air. Thank you. Take it off.